Welcome back to Talkin Timeshare. Thanks for tuning in. This is where we talk all things in the timeshare industry, especially for consumers that are looking to get out of their timeshare contracts. Today I have Roxy, and she is the Chief Resolution Officer here at Liberty Timeshare Resolution. We're going to talk today about the difference between timeshare exit companies and Liberty Timeshare Resolution as a resolution company and what the distinct differences are. Roxy, thanks for coming in and thanks for taking some time with me today.
Thank you, Jack. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, tell the audience and the person watching really like your background, where you come from, and why you're in the position that you're in today.
So I've been in this industry a very long time. I've owned timeshare, I've sold timeshare, and now I help people get out of timeshare by finding a resolution to that. The timeshare industry is a billion-dollar industry, and I'm not going to say it always seems to have a negative connotation to it. But what people don't understand is, they go into these presentations, they sit there for 3 hours, they give their credit card, they're in their ether, they're so excited, they get to go on vacation, and, what they're sold is not really in actuality when they go home what they can actually use. And so now they're trying to decide, or they bought it for their kids, and now their kids are all grown up, and they're stuck with this timeshare and these high cost maintenance fees that continue to go up, and now they're like, I want to get out of it. So it has good and bad aspects to it. I sent my son on his honeymoon to Barbados.
Yeah.
But there's a time where you need to get out of it. It's no longer serving for you, and that's where you have to decide, what company do I call? Who do I trust in this industry to get me out?
Yeah.
I'm very proud of Liberty Timeshare Resolution because we're not a company. We're a family. There's over 100 of us. We have we have a building that you can actually come into and visit with us and see what we do. But, we have beating hearts. We've all been there. And, we're looking for that resolution, not just like a lot of companies out there that just say, yeah, we can get you out, pay us this, and then you never hear from them again. And I hear that all the time.
Yeah. So interesting that you said like you've been kind of on both sides of the industry, and what I heard you say is like not all timeshares are bad, right? It kind of has a very negative connotation to it, a stigma of like timeshares are bad because you and I know that like a majority of people, I think when I read a study, it said that 85% of timeshare owners regret buying after they, experience it for a while. And what you said is like, in the beginning, they get sold a dream and they're excited, and maybe it's something that benefits them and they use for quite a bit of time. But what happens is your life changes, right? Like there's, especially with the customer base that we have, right? There's, people retire, or there's, people, get hurt and they can't travel, or they get sick, or loved ones pass away. There's things that happen, life events that are like, hey, I'm not using this anymore. It's like buying a boat. Maybe you bought a boat in your 30s and you're using it on the lake every day with your kids, but then your kids all grow up, they go to college, and it's like, we never use that boat anymore, and we need to just get rid of that. It's costing us money and maintenance and all these things, and we're just not using it, or we can't use it anymore. I can't even get out there. And that's kind of where a lot of people then are in that boat that you talked to, but that space that you talked about where they're like, all right, I think I want to get out of this thing. Now, what do they usually do first in those scenarios where they're decided in their head, I want to get rid of this thing?
So what we hear a lot, and what I know to happen, is when they're sold on this pipe dream, the way they get it sold is, if you ever want to get out of it, just come back to us and you'll get it out. That is not the case. These timeshares do not. They have these little fine print in that 64-page purchase agreement. And so what happens is now they call the timeshare and they say, okay, we're ready to get out. And they are pretty much mocked and laughed at and said, well, good luck with that. So now, you've got somebody in their 60s, 70s, 80s and like, what do we do now? And then they start researching. Well, as they research, there's so many companies out there, exit companies out there, and they sell them again on a pipe dream, just like when they bought the timeshare. Oh my gosh, we can get you out and just pay this money. And they have no real intention of getting these people out. And so just like buying a timeshare, doing your due diligence, you've really got to do your due diligence of what kind of company you want to go to
Yeah.
get this resolved.
Yeah, and a lot of people that we actually help too, just kind of really discussing and talking with a lot of the people on the back end, the qualification specialists that, you know, take the initial call, the consultation from the timeshare owners, and a lot of them, is what we call a double victim, right? They've been a victim of the timeshare, lying, being misled, all these things, and then they're misled and they're a victim of an exit company, right? And I put those in quotes because it's just like, even exit companies have now this negativity around them because there's so many, bad eggs and people that just, they're the same people that were getting people into them that weren't doing it the right way, right? Doing it without integrity. And then they're like, oh, hey, sales are kind of slow. Things are slowing down in the timeshare industry a bit. Well, why don't we jump over here to the exit industry and let's do another presentation for them on getting them out. And so, a lot of people, from what you said, they get take advantage of again. And that's really where, a company like us, we come in and that's why we say we're not an exit company, right? We're trying to separate ourselves from that side of things because they're just, and again, not all exit companies are bad, right? They're not. There's some great companies out there that are doing good work. But over here, it's like we're focused on a resolution, right? And what do you think the main things are that separate us as a resolution company versus, your stereotypical exit company that you're maybe seeing advertisements for all, 3, 4, 5 times a day?
Well, you nailed it when you say the difference between exit and a resolution company, because we're actually taking that client and finding a resolution in getting this resolved, getting it dissolved so they're no longer in it. An exit company is, hey, give me some money and, good luck with that. We'll see what we can do. And so there are a lot of bad companies out there, but the fact of the matter that we take each client as if they're our only client, and we really dig into their case and figure out what resolution path we have. And we don't have just one, hey, this is the way we do it.
Sure.
We take each client, we look over all of what what their balance is, if they paid it off, things like that. And then we find that resolution of the direct path that we need to go. So not every client is going down that same path. That's where the resolution fits, where we come in, because we're finding that resolution, not just one size fits all, because it's not that fact.
Yeah, and that's like one of the things I've loved about really working more with the fulfillment team, the resolution team, is diving in and really understanding there's so many paths to how we can get somebody out. And like you said, it's dependent on your situation. And people don't like that answer, up front, like, well, how can you get me out and how much does it cost and all that stuff. It's like, it really does depend. Some of our paths, are quick. We can get people out in as little as 3 months, right? Mm-hmm. Some take up to that 18 months to really, get them through the right paths. And sometimes we have options, multiple options for people. And, it's like, I don't want that option. I don't want that option. I want this one. And, that's the reality. But that's one of the things that I've loved is working with the directors and like how everyone on that resolution end is committed. And I would say that that's a big thing that separates us is a lot of these exit companies, they're just sales companies. Mm-hmm. They're just there to sell and make money. A lot of them are third party, so they just kind of pass it off to, another company for them to handle, right? Which, you got to just be careful and make sure that company is a good company and they're the right company. They're doing the right thing, obviously, right? With Trade Block, which is who we were working with in the beginning, right? you guys were a solid company with a great process, which is what made us at Liberty want to come in and bring that team all in one, and which is what we've done now. And so that's one of the things that I love now is like we're not, a sales company. We do everything from beginning to end. We do a lot of marketing because we want to be able to reach as many timeshare owners as possible. And do we have a sales process? Yes, we have a sales process because it 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 requires a team of 100 people as of right now and growing to even help the amount of people that we're helping right now. So of course we need to charge for our services. And then on the back end, we have a resolution team that's working just very hard to take care of the clients and get them through, the right path that's going to help them at the end of the day just feel like this burden's been lifted off my shoulders.
And I think you said something very important, that on the front side of enrolling these clients, and there's a charge to that. If you go to a company and they're saying, oh, you know what, we can get you out and this is how much it's going to be, and it really sounds too good to be true. It is in this industry. It is, because these are complicated. You signed a lifetime legal binding contract that has survivorship and perpetuity, and people don't think that that is real. And so we take the time to really resolve your issue. And the client is always in charge of our process. We lay out some options. Hey, we can go this path. You qualify for this path. So it's just not a one size fits all. And that's what I love. What we do is we are really looking at the overall picture of these clients. And from the front end, we're enrolling them. We're very honest. Hey, it could take 18 months. We do have some options that can get you out sooner, but we fit our program to them. We don't have a program that we make it fit to somebody. And
Yeah.
so it's, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, with Liberty, our goal is to become a household name in timeshare, which means that, we're focused on the brand and building the brand and the reputation of that brand. Like, if we weren't doing what we're telling people that we're going to do, like our reputation would show that. And
Right.
so a lot of these companies, what I was going to ask is like, let's talk about some red flags that timeshare owners, right, watching this can recognize when going through this process, because it can be overwhelming. I'm telling you, they may be seeing an ad for Liberty, and then 5 minutes later they're seeing, ad 2 from another company, ad 3 from another company, 4, 5, and it's just like, well, who do I even talk to? Who do I, and that's why we're doing stuff like this is, hey, like we're here to educate and here to, create awareness around what works from what we know and what we definitely know doesn't work and what to stay away from. One of the red flags is, that I would say is like a lot of these companies they're getting sold to, right, is like, can you find them online? Are they an actual brand? Can you search them? Do you see them? Do they have a physical location, an office with real employees that you can call and talk to? Or is it just you kind of met someone in a Sheraton Inn and you're now in a reverse timeshare presentation, which, sometimes can be, a major red flag. As we know, we do have some customers that come through that process, which we make sure that the people we're working with on that end have, are doing things the right way, and that they're working with us. So
There's a lot of red flags out there. One of the red flags, you call a company, oh, yep, we can get you out. They don't even know what you own. They don't even know how much you owe on that. Huge red flag when they say automatically. How do they know? Another one, hey, let me come to your home. Or immediately, okay, it's going to cost you this. How are you going to pay for it? So they preemptive just say, yes, we can get you out. Again, too good to be true, where we take the time to find out exactly from our front end, the enrollment process, getting down, digging deep, to make sure that we can help you, because we're not going to take on cases that we know we cannot help. So it's very important that we do that due diligence and that groundwork to make sure we can get you out, where there's some companies you just call up and say, yep, we can get you out before they even know what they can do. And then we have processes. So it's not just, again, we're just hurrying and trying to get you through this process. You then go to an enrollment team. The enrollment team has you fill out all the paperwork. Then then you go to our legal department and they make sure that, that's where we start sending what's called a developer letter where we're communicating. And then you go to our resolution specialists where they're now creating a resolution with maybe options that we can get you out in as little as 3 months upon qualification. So again, and then you go back to our case specialists where you're there for the duration of the time. So throughout our process, you're being helped through each department. And again, that's why it does take time. And so if somebody says, hey, we'll have you out in a couple of months,
Yeah.
that's impossible. It's, without doing that due diligence. And we take the time and the care to make sure we can get you out before we say, yep, before we take your money.
What's one of the biggest obstacles for us as a company that we run into in terms of finding resolutions for people and with things changing in the industry?
What do you mean by that?
Like the timeshares, like I know you mentioned to me the other day, right? Like timeshares companies are evolving because we're coming up with strategies to get people out, and sometimes they're evolving what they're doing. So some of our options that worked a year ago might not work today.
Right. So the timeshares are always evolving. They're always, we're always jumping through hoops. Every single year they have something new because remember, they got you to buy this and they don't want to lose you. They want you to pay. In most purchase agreements, they feel you're going to own it for 30 to 35 years. So if you ever try and get out of that, they feel entitled to all those maintenance fees. So people will call us and say, well, I don't owe anything. Yes, you do. You owe those maintenance fees and if you don't, something should happen to you, it does go to your kids and your grandkids. We hear stories about grandkids that their wages are getting garnished over this. Now, before, the timeshares were never allowed to put on credit reports. About 11 years ago, they started putting it on credit reports. So now they're damaging their credit. They're starting to do foreclosures, which is ludicrous to me because they don't own anything.
Yeah.
They can't go decorate it. They can't have people come over. They own space to a building. They just seem to keep doing things that are really detrimental to people that they once believed in, that got them to believe that they could use this forever. Their maintenance fees are constantly going up. A special assessment fee, especially during COVID, people couldn't go to these, but the people were still required to pay their maintenance fees. And then they had to pay special assessment fees to get these resorts back in working order. But the biggest tragedy I feel is they sell these timeshares. They don't educate people on how to use these timeshares. Me, as somebody that doesn't own timeshare anymore, I have more rights and benefits to that timeshare than a person that actually is an owner. And they pay those maintenance fees to have it beautiful for me to go. And so the timeshares are just constantly evolving and making harder and harder for these people to get out, but they welcome the people that are just willing to pay cash to go in. And so it's people really need to start just doing more research before they buy these because they're not easily to get out, and the timeshares are constantly doing things to make it harder and harder for these people to get out. They're stuck with it.
And at the end of the day, it's just doing the right thing. We know, within Liberty, we've got core values, and we say it all the time. That's how we make decisions at Liberty, is based on core values. We were just having a conversation about it before before the camera started rolling. Is like, could we just open up the opportunity to something that we're not sure 100% works yet, and the decision is like, why don't we test it a few times with some customers, right? And something that can be very valuable for customers, right? Of trying to help get foreclosures removed. And it's like, okay, before we start offering that, let's look and see, like, does this work? Does it stay off for several months? And again, that comes down to being a core value first company, not a sales company. Sales exit company would just be like, oh, someone told you we could do that. Great, let's do it.
Right.
And start selling it and all that. It's like, it's just not the right thing to do.
And it's doing the right thing all the time. not just sometimes. And that's what one of our motto is doing the right thing all the time. And that's what we're providing to clients by doing that and providing that resolution. And, again, the industry of the timeshare, they make it be, sound good, and it does work. But when you want to get out, that's where the problem arises, because you can't just get out of these, and you have to find a reliable company to do that. And so, with Liberty, where we're full service from enrolling you, having you go through our process, finding a resolution, and protecting your credit through the process, we're constantly finding that path for each client. And so, you really have to do your due diligence. And if it sounds too good to be true, it truly is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that for anyone that's watching, right, if you're in a situation where you own a timeshare and you're just unsure, it doesn't cost you anything to hear your options and speak with someone from our company. We do thousands of consultations every single week, and we're constantly turning away people that we don't feel confident that we can help, or that, hey, you don't qualify for our program. That would be another thing that, any company that just everyone qualifies and anyone qualifies, it's just not true. There's some timeshares that just don't, that don't work. And that it's too much on our end to do it, that we aren't willing to do it and guarantee it in writing. And so, that if you do come to us and we do decide to take your file on, it means that we're confident we can help you, and confident enough to where we can guarantee it 100% in writing or your money back. And so if you are watching and you're, maybe you're in that situation, there's a link below, and you can go to our website, fill out your information. We'll send you a free guide, resolution guide in the mail as well, just to kind of learn about our company, learn about how our process works. And then, one of our team members will likely reach out to you to schedule a consultation and to see if it's even a good fit, if we can even offer you a resolution on our end. Anything that you would want to say to someone watching?
Please give us a call, because again, let us help provide that path for you. Again, it's not a one size fits all, and we take care for each client. Each client is like our only client that we have, and we just take you through the process, but we explain everything along the way, and let us help you get out of this burden that eventually you will leave it to your kids or your grandkids.
Yeah. Well, this has been Talkin Timeshare with Roxy, and I appreciate you coming on. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you, Jack.